business, life, and relationships. This is the Growth to Freedom Show. Now, here is your host, Dan Kuschell.
Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you transformation, inspiration, and leadership. Yep, that's what it's all about. And today we're disrupting the status quo. It's the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants. It's the science of achievement, the science of transformation, the science of transcendent, and it's about you. That's right. It's about you. This is a show today about gratitude, about contribution, and accelerating and building momentum to create the life you want and go to the next level. Wow. As I stop and think about the last couple weeks, the last 14 days to be exact, I feel like I've lived 6 months in 14 days. I've had just an incredible amount of things to be grateful for. And I want to challenge you right now, whether you're driving, whether you're listening to us on the road, or whether you're watching us, wherever you might be from, by the way, thanks for making us part of your day. Just as a side note, the show is brought to you by doneforyousolutions.com. That's doneforyousolutions.com. We'd love to connect with you. You can join us on Twitter, of course, at Dan_Kuschell. That's Dan_Kuschell. Or feel free to email us at info@growthtofreedom.com. That's info@growthtofreedom.com. Oh, by the way, we've got a special resource package that I want to invite you to participate in. This resource package will bring you greater clarity, confidence, direction. We've got some tools available, some blueprints to help you go from A to Z much faster, much quicker to build growth, momentum, and mastery. So with that in mind, let's talk about gratitude, contribution, and going to the next level, shall we? So I'm going to start off with gratitude. Wherever you might be from, wherever you might be today, I want you to stop and take a few moments. As I was preparing for the show today, I was thinking back over the last 14 days, and holy cow. First of all, I'm a proud dad. Do you know any proud dads? Well, you know, my son and daughter participated in a chess tournament here just a couple weeks ago, and this was my son's second chess tournament. And out of 100 kids in his age group that he was in, he finished in 12th place, which I'm really, really proud of what he's doing. And I'm starting to take up chess again. I don't think I played it, Matt, since I was about my son's age, which he's 8 right now. So I'm grateful for that. My daughter had an incredible time. I remember my son, by the way, he faced some adversity right up front. You know, he was actually kind of cocky going in, thinking he was going to win every game and, you know, all this stuff against his peers. And he lost his very first game, and he walked out of the thing, and he was so sad. He had this big, long face on. And, you know, so I had to give him a little pep talk. I said, buddy, it's not how you start. It's how you finish. So let's go to the next one, and let's just work on focusing on this one and making this the best one that you've got. And guess what he did? He won. And then I said, there you go. Now you're even 1-1. Let's go ahead and focus on this one, and let's win this game and match. And he won that one. And then he was 3-1 in the tournament. My daughter ended up 2-2. It was, you know, just a proud moment. I spent half the afternoon, got a chance to spend time with a lot of the parents. And one of Kyler and Kira's peers in their class actually finished first of the whole tournament. Pretty incredible overall. So that was something I'm grateful for. Obviously, today is a day to be proud of too, right? It's Veterans Day. I mean, we live in the greatest country in the world, don't we? It's the land of opportunity. It's the God-given right we have to take advantage of this thing called capitalism. And you know what's funny, Matt? Most people can't even define the word capitalism, you know? And it's a shame. You know, we have our veterans who, you know, basically will take a bullet for us to allow us the freedom, you know, hence the name of the show, Growth to Freedom. And most people aren't even taking advantage of this God-given freedom we have of capitalism, the right to exchange goods and services in exchange. And it comes down to value creation. It comes down to contribution. So I'm grateful today. How about you? I'm grateful for, you know, my kids. I'm grateful for my incredible wife. We just moved into our new house here a couple of weeks ago, which has been a whole ball of joy, right? It's called a money pit sometimes, right? You got to get through the rocky road before you can start enjoying it, all the things. And we don't even have hot water yet. Don't feel bad for us, by the way, at all. We're incredibly blessed. But did I say breast? I don't think I can say breast on the air. I think they're going to ban me from radio now. But no, I'm kidding. But I feel incredibly blessed. That, you know, hey, I can live without, I guess, hot water for a few weeks. It's been 3 or 4 weeks now. But incredible wife, we had an incredible event. A lot of people have been asking me, Dan, what have you been up to? And like I said, I feel like I've lived a year in like 2 weeks. We had an incredible event. You've probably heard us interview a lot of our guests about Genius Network. And, you're a Genius Network away from solving any problem. I mean, literally, with a Genius Network, you can solve any problem, whether it's health, mental, physical, social, spiritual, emotional, financial. And, we bring together the top thought leaders in the world. We had Tony Robbins there, John Paul DeJoria, Harvey McKay, Victoria LeBaume, Cameron Herold, Brendan Burchard, Dean Graziosi, Dan Sullivan, and the list goes on and on. We had 330 of the top entrepreneurs in the world. It was the highest level discussion and collaboration group for business and direct response marketing in the world that's ever been put together. And wow, I got a chance to be a part of it, not just sit in the audience, but I was a part of the team putting this all together. And just feel really proud of that and grateful for the community that we've built and the opportunities we're providing entrepreneurs like you to be able to go out and be your best self and take it to the next level. That's really what it's about. And what are you challenging yourself to do right now, right? What is it you're disrupting? What is the little hinge that swings it? Or, there's that old saying, if you take rocks and put them, or coal and put it together, ultimately, if you put enough friction to it, it creates diamond. What are you stretching yourself to do? Are you putting yourself in the vacuum to go out there and really be at your very best? Because here's what I know. Imagine being able to stretch yourself mentally, physically, socially, emotionally, financially, and across the board with your capabilities, right? To be better. We talk about the 5 key skill sets that you need to have today to succeed in business and in life. It's influence, it's marketing, productivity, emotional mastery, as well as the ability to go out there and, factor success, right? So it's having these 5 key capabilities and skill sets in place working together. Now, you may not personally have to have them, but you've got to acquire them on your team. You've got to, because making money, building success today is a team sport, isn't it? Right? Have you figured that out yet? I know for me, it took me a long time. My parents taught me, Dan, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. That's one of the biggest lines of BS any of us have ever been taught. The most successful people, listening to John Paul DeJoria, who started his business with $700, and he's built this billion-dollar empire. John Paul Mitchell Systems, Patron Tequila, several other big initiatives that he's a part of. I mean, he's one of the most humble. People ask me, well, of this event and all these incredible thought leaders you brought together, who was the most impressive? And frankly, it was, and I'm not impressed easily anymore, right? One thing I've discovered is that most of these experts, there's a front stage persona and definitely a backstage persona. One of the things I appreciate about Joe Polish of Genius Network is his front stage persona matches his backstage. Well, John Paul DeJoria was the most impressive of all the other experts that we had on this platform because he was humble. He talked about his humble beginnings, what he's taken to build success, and then he put it in perspective. And the way my interpretation of how he put it in perspective is, what? We all go through ups and downs. And even the most successful people in the world have problems. Did you know that, by the way? Did you know that the most successful people have problems? And in many ways, in some areas of their life, they're highly dysfunctional, right? It's not whether they are dysfunctional, it's how they integrate to, adapt, modify, go around. And so as you think about yourself, so we started off the show with gratitude and contribution. So what are you grateful for, right, in your life? What are the capabilities that right now as you stand there, or sit there, right? Or if you're driving, or if you're watching, what capabilities that you have right now are you grateful for in your life, right? Who are the people in your life that you're grateful for? I'm grateful for my kids, my parents, Joe Polish, our incredible Genius Network team. I also had a chance to take a road trip with 2 of our previous guests on the show, Jeremy Weiss, Dr. Jeremy Weiss, as well as John Corcoran, and you can go check those episodes out at growthtofreedom.com and look them up. Awesome guys. They put together a small mastermind. They asked me to do, be a part of as an expert speaker. Came in, was able, I think, to share some incredible wisdom. But the group of people they assembled was fantastic. Then I was in Austin, Texas for that 2.5 days. Then I flew to Denver and was at a conference with what's called GKIC. Dan Kennedy is one of the most prolific, known as one of the most prolific marketers and direct response copywriters in the world. There were 600 people at that event. I had a chance to meet just some fantastic people. Then I had a chance to hang out with a couple friends of ours from Genius Network in Austin, Alex Charfin, Katie Charfin. We got a chance to really, it was just an incredible road trip. And then I got back, and now we're in the heat of some momentum right now is what I'll say. And so Genius Network and Strategic Coach and all the incredible people. I mean, again, any problem can be solved with a Genius Network. And that's a reality. And so, again, coming back to you, what are you grateful for right now, right? And who are the people in your life that are going to help you get from where you are to where you want to go? Do you realize that the people that have gotten you from where you were to where you are not the same people likely that are going to help you go from where you are today to where you want to go? And in order to go, or in order to grow, you've got to be willing to go. And that sometimes isn't the easiest thing. That means letting go of some of the past to be able to get what we want in the future. And here's what I know about you, right? You deserve the very best. You deserve to be a winner, a champion. See, there's a big difference between mediocrity and extraordinary. Wouldn't you agree? Well, what would have to happen for you to start living as that champion you deserve to be? Extraordinary versus and more extraordinary than you are, because maybe you're already immensely successful. But what's that little notch up? What is that challenge that you're going to look in the mirror or write down today and go, you know what? I dare to be different. I dare to be great. I dare to be my very best to close out this next quarter, right? Because whenever you're watching right now or whenever you're listening, you've had a quarter or two come and go, and you've got quarters coming as far as, if you look at the calendar. What are you going to do to stretch your best self? What are the things you're going to put in place to be able to maximize your ability to go from wherever you are to that next level of transformation? And there's even a level deeper and beyond transformation, which is called transcendence. So we're going to talk about you being your very best you to transform, to transcend whatever you do at home, whether you're in business, otherwise. That and a whole lot more coming up right after this on growthtofreedom.com. Welcome back to growthtofreedom.com. We're on fire today. You know why? I feel like I've lived 6 months in the last 2 weeks with all the incredible events and all the incredible blessings and people. You know what I've discovered is that Genius Network can solve any problem. It really can. Whether it's health, mental, physical, social, spiritual, emotional. And at the end of the day, here's the deal, folks. You and I are highly functional at certain things, we're excellent at other things, and we're jacked up and dysfunctional in other things. Deal with it. It's not whether you do or you don't, it's the question of how you deal with it. And you know what? The most successful people in the world have figured out how to work with their dysfunctions. That's the reality of it. And that isn't something that's talked about in shows like this or usually on stage or even behind the scenes, frankly, because everybody wears their stuffy, proper outfit, right? And they're all proper and, professional and shit. And, the reality is we all have stuff we're dealing with. And today's a show to celebrate you. It's a show about contribution. It's a show about gratitude. Today's Veterans Day, for crying out loud. And we live in the greatest country in the world. It's about capitalism, that God-given right, the God-given freedom we have to go out there and build something for ourselves, for our family. And here's a question I pose to you. What are you doing with it? Right? Here's a question to think about. Do you have big dreams right now for this year? Do you have big dreams for this year? Well, guess what? You probably had big dreams last year too. How is this year different than last year? And you know what? Next year is going to come and go. And in order for things to be different, you got to be willing to do something different. And today's about disrupting your status quo, challenging you to go from wherever you are, whatever that is, because I know you might be immensely successful in certain areas of your life right now. So this is about a next level way of thinking, to transform, to transcend. I want to share some strategies, some tips to be able to show you how to be able to do just that, to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants, because the other thing is building wealth, freedom, opportunity today, being the champion you deserve to be. It's not an isolated thing. It's a team thing, right? The old acronym I think I learned from Mark Victor Hansen when I worked with him years ago. Together, everyone achieves more miracles. Team. Together, everyone achieves more miracles. And you deserve it, don't you? Why are you trying to do it the hard way? I mean, if you had a choice between the short path and the long path, which would you take? Well, the short path is by working in community, by working in unity. And that's where you can bring your capabilities, match them with others, and create magic, create miracles. And isn't that what it's all about? You know, I feel so grateful that I get to share these ideas with my kids. The other day we were talking. My son has this vision that he's going to be a billionaire, Matt. Right? He's 8 years old going, Daddy, I want to be a billionaire. And, he's like, Dad, how? I said, well, Kyler, how do you think you do that? He said, well, value creation and transformation. I said, well, it's bigger than that, right? And there's a video we've got of him being interviewed by Joe Polish. Actually, I should share it on the site. It's really cute. It's about 2 minutes. But Joe, he was so taken by Kyler and Kira's awareness, right? And I guess to a degree, I'm brainwashing them, right? But if people didn't need to have their brains clean, I guess we wouldn't need to wash them. But nonetheless, I've got my little me's running around, my little kids and minions, if you will. And Joe was so taken, he interviewed them for a couple minutes, and they talked. The other day I was asking him, or he was asking me, I want to become a billionaire. I said, well, what's it going to take? He goes, value creation, transformation. And I said, well, it's a little more than that. I said, and I learned this from Naveen Jain, who was one of the speakers at our Genius Network event here the other day. And he says, in order to be a billionaire, all you need to do is solve a $10 billion problem. That's it, right? And maybe your goal isn't to be a billionaire. Maybe that isn't your thing. Guess what, though? If you want to be 100,000-aire, solve a $1 million problem. So it's a 10 times transformation. And see, imagine a world, Matt, as you're watching, as you're listening right now, imagine a world if all of us in our work path, our career path, our family path, whatever it is that we do, if we looked at it and said, okay, how can I provide 10 times value to whoever I'm in life with? In my case, I look at my kids. How can I provide 10 times value to them? I want to share part of the reason I created the mission to build this show is this is a footprint and a thumbprint of leaving a legacy for my kids. I want them to be able to have access to this forever. So for me, it's a passion project, right? And we're doing some really cool things. We exceeded, by the way, over like 160,000 views of this show. Isn't that cool?
Awesome.
Yeah, that takes a team. We got Ramon, our sound engineer. We got you here in video. We got a lot of our social media team working on this. So that's one aspect. But in your work life, right? What is it going to take to provide 10 times transformation in what you do with your client base, if you have one, or maybe you work in a career path or a job? Start thinking in terms of what's the 10 times transformation? What's the 10 times value I can provide? You want to earn extraordinary income? Simply do a little extra. It doesn't take 10 times extra per se. It just takes a little bit extra. Right? It's that little bit of extra. Like if you look at horse racing, right, or NASCAR racing, many times the difference between multiple seven-figure type payouts is literally a few inches. Or in horse racing, it might be what they call a nose, right? Just a couple inches. They weren't 10 times better. They were just a couple inches better. In car racing, it's a couple inches. It's literally a fender length apart. Not 10 car lengths usually. But they make huge sums of multiples of exponential money as a result of just being that much better. What can you do to be that much better? What is the 10 times transformation? At home, I think about this with my wife. How can I be a 10 times better husband? Right? See, you can be a 10% kind of person or you can be a 10 times person. Which one pays you best? Which one gives you back in life? It's about contribution, that C word we started the show today with, right? It's about gratitude. It's about contribution at the highest level. See, imagine though, if the city, if the state, if the country started focused, how can we provide 10 times value in what we do? Where would we be in the next couple years? Do you think we'd solve some of the financial issues in the world? I think we would. Do you think we'd solve some of the poverty issues I think we would. It's a different level of thinking about what it is you do. And as a dad, I'm proud that I'm able to, share that with Kyler, with Kira. I said to him, Kyler, let's not worry about being a billionaire right now. Let's worry about building your first 1,000 in your own business, being an entrepreneur. And we talked about starting a lemonade stand. and having the right location. And he was, I think I shared this before, didn't I, right? I go, where do you think we should do it? He goes, well, at a football stadium where there's a lot of people. I'm like, yes, he's got it, right? I'm working on a book I want to create a best-selling book campaign with my daughter. She's wanting to write a book. I want to help her do that. I think with the connections I've got, that may be able to be a reality over the next year or so. But it's about contribution, right? What is it that you can do that you can provide 10 times value? Whether it's start at home, right? With your family, in your job, in your career. And maybe you've got that entrepreneurial spirit. I don't know about you. Do you feel like you're a little crazy? Do you? I know I do. When was the time, Alex Charfin asked this question, when it was that you realized you were just a little bit different, right, than everybody else? I know for me, I realized it when I was about 8 years old. 8 years old. I challenge you, dare to be different. Dare to play a bigger, better game. Be a 10 times person, not a 10% person. Not a tit-for-tat person. Don't you hate those people? Well, if this, well, then that. That's bull. You know what I'm going to say. Be a 10 times person, a transformer, a transcender in the world. Deliver more, and that's all about contribution. That's all about contribution. And when we come back, I've got a blueprint here from our Genius Network event of some of the top thought leaders and some of their wisdom, some of their strategy that I know that with the right person, you can go out there and make miracles happen. I'm going to share that and a whole lot more coming up right after this on growthtofreedom.com. Welcome back to growthtofreedom.com. I have a question for you. Are you a 10 times person or a 10% person? And what I mean by that is, are you the type of person that is really playing a full-on game, laying it all out on the field, all on the battlefield, if you will, of life, this game called life? 10 times contribution, 10 times value, transformational value, value creation. Or are you a 10% type of person? I had a mentor years ago, or actually someone I had speak at one of my events, T. Harv Eker, and he used to say, I can predict the wealth that someone has in less than 5 minutes of meeting them. And you know what? One of the key components, he didn't talk about it the way I'm describing it right now, but you know what? It comes down to being a 10 times person versus a 10% type person. And I think I'm tying this in, Matt, by the way, with what Peter Diamandis talked about at our event and weaving this in. But as a 10 times person, you know what? You get more freedom, don't you? You get more opportunity for growth, opportunity for mastery. You challenge yourself at new level. You disrupt yourself all the time. See, the most successful people in the world aren't the type that, just kind of float in the water like a leaf. They're the type of person that they take deep dives sometimes and they come back with a mouthful of water choking. But guess what? They challenge themselves to disrupt the status quo. I mean, look what Apple's done to the industry. Look what Starbucks has done to the industry. Again, today's an incredible day to celebrate. It's a day to be grateful. It's a day to live in gratitude. I mean, it's Veterans Day. And we've got, we've got military who will give their life for you, for me. My dad served in the military. When I was out at this event with Dr. Jeremy Weiss and John Cochran, I got a chance to meet a couple incredible ladies, Adrian and Kelly. These two incredible ladies served in the military for well over a dozen years, giving themselves of this country, right? Giving themselves to this country. And they're rock stars with what they've been able to do in transitioning from the military and applying that in an entrepreneurship environment. You know why? Because they see themselves a certain way. They see themselves as a 10 times person. They were willing to give of themselves probably 100 times in a military role. They just figured out a way to transform that into a business entrepreneurship world, and they're doing incredibly well. And I hope to have them on the show at some point down the road, Kelly and Adrian. And a lot of other great experts coming up. We've got Dean Jackson going to be coming up along the way. Dean's he is called the marketing Buddha. I mean, he's a genius at marketing and messaging with what he's been able to do over the years. So I want to share a few strategies, a few highlights from our recent event. For example, Alex Charfin. Do you realize that you're a momentum-based being? It's all about momentum. See, when you're not at your very best, you're stagnant, aren't you? Right? You think of it almost like, visualize it like the couch potato. But, even it's about that incremental type person versus the transformation type person. It's the 10% person versus the 10 times person. What would you be like in full momentum? I believe that you'd be highly creative, courageous, committed, significant, living with meaning, with purpose. You and I are meant to be a momentum-based person. And Alex Charfen is one of the best at being able to teach this. Or how about Cameron Herold? Have you ever heard that vision statements are a key to success? Well, what if I told you that vision statements don't work, right? And that most high-level CEOs think they're more intuitive than they really are. But in many places, the team that people are running, working with the intuitive CEO, end up fragmented, stagnated, transitioning a lot, high turnover, and a simple 3 to 4 page vision, vivid vision, will have team members, employees, vendors all on the same page. You can do this with your family too. I did this with my wife, and it's one of the most transformational processes. Vivid visions are replacing vision statements worldwide. Or how about Daniel Amen, who's done more brain research on concussions and what concussions do to the brain. And do you realize that concussions are reversible? Do you realize there are companies that actually have technology that would reduce and eliminate concussion syndrome in pro athletes by a factor of 3/4, 75%? But you know what? Bureaucracy gets in the way. Are you tired of bureaucracy? I know I am, right? I'm going to talk more about Dan Sullivan, about Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, some of the strategies from John Paul DeJoria, and a whole lot more. And all I know is this. Think about where you're at today. See, where you're at today is a direct reflection of whether you've been a 10% person or a 10 times person up till now. And here's the deal. If you want to change, all you got to do is what? Start doing things different. Be willing to change. And that's what this show is about. Transformation, inspiration, and being able to bring you mastery, tips and mastery. That and a whole lot more coming up right after this on growthtofreedom.com. Welcome to growthtofreedom.com. I have a question for you. Are you a 10 times person or a 10% person? There is a difference, isn't there? And at the end of the day, one of the questions that Matt asked overall is he said, how does someone who's new to this idea or new to these strategies get started with this 10 times approach? And I'm going to suggest to you that it actually happens in small chunks, right? Again, the difference, Matt, between ordinary and extraordinary is just a little bit, right? It doesn't mean you have to put 10 times the effort, right? What matters is getting 10 times the outcome by a little effort, extra effort. What is that little extra you can bring to your game every day? If you have a 9 to 5 career, for example, instead of being the person that shows up at 9 o'clock and leaving at 5 o'clock, well, what if you came in a half hour early on the front end and maybe a half an hour to an hour on the back end? And then, think about you personally. Let's get a little selfish here. By the way, do you know it's okay to be selfish? See, in order to love someone else, in other words, your other career, your business, if you have one, you got to love yourself first, don't you? Right? I know I can't love my wife to the fullest extent unless I love myself. You ever heard that, right? You've heard that, haven't you? I know you have, right? It's one of the most common themes out there, but here's the deal. Look at your life in 6 categories: mental, physical, social, emotional, financial, right? I guess that's 5. Mental, physical, social, spiritual, emotional, and financial. There you go, 6. Well, what can you do every day that virtually no one else is doing? And look at this as a long-term plan. Let's look at a year from today. Wherever you are right now, where are you right now? Mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, and then financially, right? What is the average person doing on a daily basis? Well, let me give you an example of what I know that to be true. The average person is doing nothing extra. They wake up in the morning, they get a cup of coffee, they watch and read the news, they do their thing 9 to 5, they come home, they turn on the TV, sit in front of that boob tube, and they're a drone till they go to bed, and then they do that same thing all over again, and then they have a little peak on a weekend, right, with some activities. That's what the average person is doing. That's not you if you're watching, if you're listening. I know that about you. I do. You know what? Chances are when I said, do you feel like you're a little crazy? There's a part of you going, yes, I do. And if I said to you, do you feel that you're a little different? You're destined to do something big, to do something special. I bet there's a little voice inside of you. It might be suppressed a little bit right now, but I believe it. Chances are if you're watching or listening, you're going, yeah, you know what? You're talking to me. You're talking to me. And you know what? I challenge you to dare to go big, to play a bigger game. You know what? I'm an overachiever, guys. Ladies, as you're watching, as you're listening, the only difference between me and others is I've just been willing to put in some time and do things a little different. In order for things to be different, you got to be willing to do things different. In order to disrupt things, to get extraordinary results, you got to be willing to disrupt some things. And you know what? You learn more by doing and making mistakes than you do by contemplating, theorizing, and analyzing or reading about it. Go out and do it. And I challenge you to look at 6 areas of your life mentally. What could you do today mentally to make yourself better? And if you just spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes today, every day for the next 365 days, where would you be in a year compared to everybody else in your peer influence? Well, I'll tell you where you'll be. You'll be 10 times further ahead. Right? Or how about physically? See, if you commit to like I exercise over 365 times per year. I do 2 a days. I do take some days off. But in the last 4 years, I was just looking at my calendar of my exercise routine. I've taken less than 30 days off of exercise in the last 3 years. Right? And what I mean is in a per year basis. Right? So less than 3 days per month I take off. Every other day I'm doing some form of exercise. Now, compared to the competition who are in their late 40s, getting on their 50s, versus my competition, well, there are very few people doing that. But there are people doing that. But that's why you work on the mental piece. You work on the physical piece. How about the social piece? What are you doing to extend yourself socially? You know, Matt, you shared a little bit earlier. You reached out to about 30 different people by email. Well, what if you just put that practice in day of 5 to 10 a day for the rest of your life? Of working to extend your social circle, extend your social influence. What would that do for you? What would that do for you? An opportunity. You've heard, like I've heard, haven't you? It's not what you know, but what? Who you know. Well, how do you get to extend the who you know? Is become someone that people want to know. And how do you extend that? I know Ramon at the break. He said, I love Zig Ziglar. And I was fortunate and blessed to learn from Zig Ziglar starting at about 17 years old, right? And unfortunately, he passed away here not too long ago. But Zig Ziglar had one of these philosophies. Says, if you just help enough other people get what they want, you never have to worry about what you want. And it's such a profound quote and statement. I want to say it again. And if you help enough other people get what they want, you never have to worry about what you want. And I'm going to add an asterisk or a side note to that. Choose the people that you do that with wisely. Because it does matter. See, if you'll just raise your standards, raise your game, raise your level, go to that next level of thinking and operating, and start extending that type of service leadership, servant leadership to others at the highest level. Right now, you might do that with your peer group to start getting into practice, but what if you elevated your game and you started to look at the most successful people in your community, in your church, right? In your business, and you started figuring out a way, how could you apply that principle to them? I can tell you when you look at it from a 10 times perspective, go up in leadership to provide that service. And you know what? You'll find that the most successful people are humble, they're down to earth, they appreciate that extra level of resourcefulness, of servant leadership. And you know what? You've got it in you. And I challenge you, be a 10 times person, not a 10%. It's transformational, not incremental, isn't it? But where would you be mentally, physically, socially, spiritually? I take a couple minutes each day to just, reflect on my gratitude and pray, right? Whatever that means to you, whatever your higher power is, whoever you would give notice to, because let's face it, there's got to be something much bigger than us, isn't there? And I believe it starts with gratitude and contribution. So, we talk about the 5 questions I share with my kids at dinner most days, which is, what am I grateful for right now? What am I happy about right now? What have I done well today? What mistakes did I make and what did I learn from it, right? Imagine being able to build that into your day. That's a form of spiritual reflection, isn't it? But even the one question, let's start with one question. If you just ask that one question every day and you force yourself to come up with 3 to 5 things like right now, I'm challenging you. As you're watching, as you're listening, what are 3 things you're grateful for right now? That's a form of spiritual reflection. That's all it takes. But see, if you do that every day for the next year compared to the competition, again, 5 minutes mentally, 5 minutes physically, socially, spiritually, 1 year from today, where you're going to be a transformational 10 times kind of person as far as the outcomes and results. And then imagine adding that up over 5 years and 10 years and 20 years. You start to leave a legacy, don't you? You start to experience what most people look at and go, wow, look at you. I feel like I'm talking to myself at the moment. I'm looking in the mirror because I'm not a specially gifted talent. I'm not that good at marketing. I'm not that good at sales. I'm not that good at a lot of things. But I've just worked hard. I've done a lot of simple little things over a long period of time. And you know what? You start to build up. You learn. I've made a shit ton of mistakes. And guess what? It happens. It happens. It happens for all of us, doesn't it? It's not whether we make mistakes. It's what we're going to do when we're faced with those mistakes. It's not whether we face adversity. It's what we do when we face adversity, right? At the end of the day, what matters is being able to live a full life, playing a big game, making a big impact, making a contribution. And you know what? You can play a much bigger game than you're playing, no matter how big you've already played it to this point. That's the beauty of life. It is a game. And you can decide, do you want to play small? And I'll challenge you, wherever you're at right now, whether you have a small life or a small business, don't let small-mindedness dictate whether you have a small life or a small big business. Because you deserve the very best. You deserve to be a winner. You deserve to be able to live life to the fullest. But think about it. What if all you did was work a little bit mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally? You worked on your emotional mastery. We talked about Tony Robbins. He at his talk, his interview that we did, 6 core areas of human needs, right? Certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, contribution, right? And mastery, 6 key areas. What if you just spent time working on building into those needs for yourself? Where would you be? Right? That's working on emotional mastery, and you spend a couple minutes each day working to get better every day. Just a little bit, little bit, little bit. Not trying to eat an elephant in one day. I have a friend of mine, this person, she tries to exercise like 9 hours a day in one day, but then won't exercise the rest of the week. So it lacks consistency, the diet's off, so it's about little things repeated over and over and over again. Like people ask me my diet. I'm primarily gluten-free and paleo, 80-20. Because guess what? Trying to be 100% vigilante, it works for a certain stretch, and it can even work for a year or even 2 years. But when you say the word diet, what are the first 3 letters of the word diet? Die. I don't want you to die. How about you? And that's what happens with most people's diet. They die for a bit, which is why they lose weight. They're not really making the change. How I have 70 pounds now, I've lost over 70 pounds in the few years, is because I believe one of the factors is I've taken this 80-20 approach, right? And doing these little things, mental, physical, social, spiritual, emotional. How about financial? What are you doing to better yourself financially, right? Are you taking that extra couple percent and putting it away into a savings and investment type account, right? Are you paying yourself first, or are you just getting your money and then paying the bills, and then what's left over, maybe you'll save? No. What are you doing to create the habit up front? That's what successful people do, right? Tony Robbins talks about, we all have stories, we all have states we live in, and we all have strategies. Most of them are ineffective. Most of us have ineffective stories, ineffective states, and therefore ineffective strategies, and that's why we get results that might be, call it, off. That's not what you want, right? Some of the greatest lies we've been taught, that success is hard. It's not hard. It's not easy either. And I'm not even going to say it's simple anymore. I used to say, it's not hard, but it's not easy, but it's simple. I'm not even sure that it's simple. But here's what I do know. In any area of life, there are other people who have success doing what they do. And one of the fastest, easiest approach that you and I can have to build success is to stand on the shoulders of those giants who've already been there, already doing it. And you know what? Most of the most successful people are willing to walk you through their strategies of how they've done it, if you'll just pay attention. Why have I read hundreds, if not close to over 1,000 books in my career? Why do I listen to audio programs vigilantly? It's because I want to pick those nuggets or continue to repeat those success habits. Habits leave clues, don't they? Success leaves clues. Wouldn't you agree? So right now, wherever you're at right now, you have a path that's gotten you to where you are. How would you rate your success mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, and financially? On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself? 10 being the highest level. Now, whatever those numbers are, what if you just start applying what I just shared with you up till this point with where you want to go? So you know where you are. Where do you want to go? If you want to become a 10 times person, work on those 6 key areas of life, right? Work on the 5 capabilities, getting better at those 5 capabilities: influence, marketing, productivity, emotional mastery, right? Oh, and then the one I left off earlier because I forgot about it for a minute, I had a brain fart, is recruiting/hiring, right? In other words, building a team. What if you put those in place? Where would you be in the next 6 months, the next 12 months? Well, that's what this is all about. And you know what? As we close our show, I just want to say thank you. Again, this is a show about gratitude and contribution. I want to thank you for being a part of our show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to get our resource package that you'll hear about here at the end of the show. And by the way, if this show's resonated with you in some small way, I challenge you to repeat after me. I'm a winner. I'm a champion. I deserve it. And you know what? You do. You do. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at Dan_Kuschell. Email us at info@growthtoFreedom.com. Enjoy your week. Seize the day. And until next time, make sure to check out our episode at growthtoFreedom.com. We'll look forward to working with you, providing transformation, inspiration, and leadership, because that's what it's about. growthtoFreedom.com. We'll see you next time. Enjoy your week.